I'm a bit perfectionist right now about trying to make sure things are alright. But that's not really the right way to approach this. I think the best thing I can do in for myself and for a potential video is to just say the first thing that comes to my head. So, if it's not clear already before, I am your was it July or August? No, July. I'm your July 2026 Wanderer for the US playtest. This is not my first playtest. This is my fourth playtest actually. Second time as a wild card. My very first wild card game was as the Renegade. Um, the Wanderer is a very different. I have no idea what to talk about. Let me. Okay, look. What am I supposed to talk about? I know I want to talk about something about this, and there's like a lot of things to talk about. But when I put pressure on myself to actually say anything potentially coherent, reasonable, or logical, I just collapse. Look, let me put it this way. I'm the Wanderer. It's day one. There's literally no one for me to talk to. The Wanderer, unlike everyone else in this game, has very unique restrictions and advantages. But those restrictions are pretty heavy. For one, I don't get any dashes. Like, not normally. I don't start with dashes, which means you need dashes if you want to send four messages to people. And I don't get any dashes. The only way for me to get dashes is for people to trade me dashes, but I can't even ask for dashes if no one's even talking to me. The only message I've gotten so far was from the Azerites who are interested in a helping hand for zero point 0.6 in Oxbriar. That's the city. They know I'm going to the city because it has a relic. I had the option between Oxbriar and Ziza. I went for Oxbriar since it's closer, and it's closer to the middle for where my next relic might spawn, perhaps. Um, I don't consider point 0.6 to be a good trade for a helping hand. And even if they were offering me like one Electrum for the helping hand, I wouldn't take it because I did the math in my head. It's like I could use like two helping hands in one day, and that would be like generating two trade goods, which is in the best case scenario I could get two Electrum from that. But even then, I don't believe two Electrum is worth the 5 stamina I could accumulate from not using Helping Hand. So the plan I had devised as of the current moment in my head was to more so bank stamina on day ones and day two, and if possible, use all that stamina on day three so I can make use of how the stamina gets cleared at the start of a day for days four and day five. But that means I'd have to use all the stamina on day three. That's a bit a long term projection. Um, if we're talking about actual like reasonable price for helping hand, like I'm doing it based on I think I can get better value for like 5 stamina later as compared to using helping hand now. Point 0.6 from a certain perspective is not actually unreasonable because normally when we have trade goods being exchanged from factions to wildcards, I'm a firm believer that trade goods should be sold for exactly 0.9 E in a competitive market. But the Wanderer doesn't exactly have the choice of who they give that helping hand to. They have like stamina accumulation, which does give some leverage or room to like just choose not to use the ability or a bit more control. But since the Wanderer's movement is already guided by where the relics are, and since I'm going to go to Oxbar anyways, I guess it's not completely unreasonable that I'm being asked for 0.6E. But I mean, it's like completely unreasonable. There's no way I take that deal. But I'm not going to say that outright. Now, my goal, at least with this game, in particular, is to um, first of all try not to be too competitive. That is a problem. I don't want the stress from that. But I'd like to try to experiment a little with some like niche relics and strategies and see if I can make things happen. Um, right. First day priorities. I need an alliance with a faction. It's not really an issue day one or day two, I believe, because I'm unlikely to get denounced. But I want to establish a long term permanent relationship with a faction that will give me an alliance moving forward to day threes, day four, and day five. And I hope that by establishing this alliance, I at least get someone I can trust, or rather, like a team of players I can trust. I'm currently willing to offer no harmful actions used against that faction, so like no blades or no arrests. I think that is worth quite a bit. They might not be of the same opinion. I think I want other things like being able to like have a base there for the purposes of communication, such that the base won't be raided. And I also want them to help me with other things in terms of favors, making deals on my behalf. Communication's a big issue for me, since I mentioned before, like everyone else can communicate. I can't. So I'm spending my time like staring at the monitor. Well, more so, I just come on for 15 minutes, no one talks to me, I just leave. It's kind of nice, actually, because if I was a faction right now, I'd be scrambling over this debacle in Kingsland. Like, somehow the workers and the Arcforge have both gotten their aristocrat to Kingsland. And because they're both there at the same time, neither can take Kingsland. So, if I was them right now, I'd be stressing out. But I'm not. I expect day one to be relatively simple for me. I won't have as much time later in the day, but again, it doesn't really matter too much for me. So, let's just keep things simple. We'll keep things optimistic. Oh, if possible, I want an alliance with the Spymaster and Highwayman. I want an alliance with the Spymaster specifically because they can send infinite telegrams. So I'm thinking if I have an open line of communication with the Spymaster, then when I'm about to extort someone, I mean use a service, then I have the Spymaster send a message to every faction. Just like all I need is one telegram explaining what's happening. And then that would be a really good way for me to circumvent the issues with communication, but also just bring issues immediately to the forefront of people's minds. Because, like, you might not be paying attention to what happens in every forum, but if you got a telegram, chances are you're going to read it. And so, I hope I can work with the Spymaster on that. Of course, there's an issue with how I would even pay them. Second faction I want to work with would actually be the Highwayman, or the Wildcard. He's a Wildcard. While Highwayman movement via these train jobs could be like go really well for me, but it is dependent on their being. Sorry, my avatar is a bit weird. It is dependent on there being actual train jobs in the positions I want to go to. So whether or not I get an alliance with Highwayman is variable on whether they want to give me that alliance or whether those train jobs will actually let me hit relics sooner. But the Highwayman, I'd like to believe the Highwayman won't charge much for the alliance, given that the Wanderer is only one agent. There's not much money I can give him by tolls. And I just want help collecting relics. But then again, since I am the Highwayman's and the Spymaster's direct rivals, they might not be so keen to agree with me. And there comes the issue with payment, because if I had the option, I would trade Electrum directly to make these things work. But they removed that feature to prevent kingmaking. So for now, I think I would need a faction to make those deals on my behalf. So I am looking for like a long-term relationship of small favors, at least. I don't mind giving a favor in return, and I think I'm operating on the assumption or preference that I don't mind if another wildcard takes first place. I am going to be trying, but I'm not going to try so much that I stress myself out. It's more important to me, I think, that my plans are successful rather than profitable. Maybe that's not a good motto, but that's how it is for now. A lot of Crazy things happening. They won airship. They won airship. I think this airship let them actually get their aristocrat to Kingsland. Despite, oh, they must have had both an alliance as the Highwayman, and they must have put their aristocrat to go from the future Spire to Qantas, and then take the first train to Kingsland. Wow. Anyway, I guess I'll just um I guess when I feel like it, I'll just make recordings and come online. I'm not really sure how this works, but I do know I've been wanting to make a video on this game for like a long time. And there's been like 3 playtests in the past where I've had the opportunity to do so, but well, we'll see if the 4th is any different. There's something about this game which is it's been very stressful these past few games. And I think that a large part of it is due to who I am as a player. I get like very emotionally invested in the games I play in, which is why I'm trying to take things a bit more laid back this time. And being a wild card, it gives me a lot more freedom in terms of making my own decisions. And oh shoot, I'm looking at where the forums have opened. You know, the Azerites wanted to talk in Oxbriar, but these 2 forums open. No, that's Oh, and the way the Ptolemies haven't had direct talking to the Spymaster. Okay, I might want to move to the right. Well, it depends on where the relics are spawning. I'm not going to move over to Ptolemean territory unless there's actually a relic there. But yeah, we'll play it by ear. Oh, I was saying something about like this game is. It depends on the player how stressful you make this game, because this is from a certain perspective you are spending 5 days, and you could spend a large portion of your time those days on the game. Uh, Sorry, my head drifted off. Point is, despite all the stress, there's something about this game that keeps making me come back again and again. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to some things. Feels nice. Less nice the idea of me being betrayed, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Alright, that's the end of this log. Unfortunately for me, a lot of like shit just like kind of like hit the fan. Where do I even begin? So, 2 things. I was recently in a forum in Oxbriar. I think it was before the 3rd train. I was in a forum with Oxbriar, where I talked to the Azerites about a potential long-term contract. Now, this long-term contract basically entails that it's a deal for the entire game. I get a permanent alliance. In exchange, I take no hostile actions against them. There are other clauses like having a base for the purposes of communication, agreeing to help me with communication for Highwayman Spymaster. I actually gave them a helping hand to give them a 1 Electrum, which I let them keep 0.1 of it, and the 0.9 is meant to be my credit or banking for other wildcards since I can't trade Electrum directly. So we agreed to that, and that went well. I perhaps should have given the Ptolemeans a chance to speak more, because my offer was first to the Azerites. And I realized it probably would have been better if I made it more of like an equal offer. I did say that I would give the Ptolemeans a chance to accept, but I would give the Azerites a chance to respond first, since I was making the offer to them first. And from a certain perspective, the Azerites were the only ones to message me at the start of the game. So I guess it is justified in that sense. But regardless of whether it is justified or not, I'm actually quite okay with this decision. I'm playing with the mindset of trying not to play too profitable or hard to win. I'm more concerned about ensuring that certain things are successful. So as a result, I'm not being too picky about my prices, at least with the faction I'm choosing to trust. And so far, I'd say they have been trustworthy. They've helped pay some money to the Highwayman for me to get in the line so I can move from Oxfire to Kingsland. But that's where the second issue comes from. You see, I didn't really pay attention to the rule changes. I did read them back then, but I didn't read them recently. So what happened was I saw that the hurricane from the aeronaut was docked to the Kingsland. And so even though I don't really have anything to talk to the hurricane about, I thought like I might as well just say hi. So my first message when I stepped on the hurricane was, well, where is that? Have you heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Don't ask. I just felt like I don't know what was in my head. Okay, but then um he said this or they said this, and apparently there's been a rule change where you cannot disembark from airships into neutral cities. So since the hurricane was docked at Kingsland, I couldn't get off. That was a big, really big issue because the Wanderer is only one agent. So the issue is if the Wanderer is ever like completely stranded on like an airship, which the hurricane could have done, that would ruin me for the entire day or game. I could never leave. Now, granted, from the hurricane's perspective, they would need to leave at some point. They would have inevitably end up docking at some city or another, just based on where they're paid to move and such. They wouldn't leave me stranded forever. But it was a really big risk and concern. Luckily, the aeronaut seemed like a really nice person. They understood it was an accident, so what the? They understood it was an accident, so they were willing to let me go for a very small fee of like point 0.2 electrum. I asked if they wanted more, but they're fine with that, and it actually gave me a chance to talk with them a bit more about like what price I would need to pay them in the future to have them transport me. They said point 0.2 e and like maybe like an extra like point 0.1 e when I asked if they wanted extra like to like not betray me. So I'm not willing to trust that on like day 4 or day 5, but for day 2 or day 3 when I'm trying to go around collecting relics, I think I might actually take up the aeronaut on the I might actually pay the aeronaut, and I don't mind if I pay more than what might be considered reasonable. I like making good relationships. I like not being stabbed. I like nice things. Nice things, in fact. I feel like my deal with the Azurites is kind of based on nice things. Cause like I offered them the Wanderer Dash Bank service for free, where initially I was trying to ask for just a teeny amount. They helped communicate with me through the Highwayman and a bunch of things. So I really hope that these um, relationships work out. But if I did the math correctly, I should have around point 0.2 Electrum banked with the Azurites right now. So I guess I could use that in the future, but I might need to find a way to get them more Electrum in order to add to my bank so I can work with other wildcards. Although, if there's enough trust established between us, then we might be able to work out some kind of a debt plan, which I am actually looking forward to. But let's talk a bit practicality. Today, there isn't much else planned. I was actually thinking, the hurricane told me they're going to 000. Actually, sorry. The hurricane told me what they were paid to do. And they told me that the Arc Forge paid them to hit the workers. And I mean that I guess I told them I'd keep it a secret. I wouldn't share any information. I can't even send any messages actually because I have no dashes. I wouldn't betray them anyways. But I was just like a bit surprised they gave away this information. So I actually ended up reciprocating. I told them about my deal with the Azurites, at least the main part of it. Um, I guess I didn't have to do that, but the Potomians already know about the deal since they were in the forum, so I don't think it's a big deal. But I just maybe it's not good for the faction to hire the aeronaut, but I just kind of like the idea of doing like like nice things for each other. It just feels good. Anyways, the current plan is, if possible, I'll disembark at Hard Rock early. Um, Arnott said they're going to 8-0 Future Spire, but I think rather than waiting to go to 8-0, I'll just disembark at Hard Rock, and then I'll take the train from Qantas to Future Spire. I am losing the fourth train, fifth train. So if I drop at Hard Rock, I'm losing going to Qantas, going to Future Spire. So the only real issue is I lose point 2E from that entire exchange. But I managed to talk to the aeronaut, which is probably a positive. So I think I'm happy with the situation. Let's say the issue is the aeronaut doesn't reach 8-0 fast enough, or Future Spire, likely. So if I could drop that 0-0-0, and I'll be after the fourth train, I'll take the fifth train in the future. So it doesn't matter whether I get off a Hard Rock or 8-0, but I think for easier of me just to pre-input my moves, I'll just drop off a Hard Rock and go to Future Spire. That's the current easiest option for me right now. And then I'll get an option of four choices later tonight on what abilities to add. So I think things are working out. Feel a bit bad for Batomians not giving them more of a chance to make that long term deal with me. They have like a discussion with the Spy Master, like a base. I mean, I do want to talk with the Spy Master, but I think this will work out fine. I'm expecting a trade offer with the Azurites later regarding the alliance and a base for communication. But I hope things go well for the Azurites. Actually, maybe I'll help them where I can. Again, I don't want to be too finicky about money, but my time is actually limited today. I won't be able to be online as much as I want, but um, yeah, I think this will be fine. There's not much else for me to do. Maybe talking in the forum in future when I get there, but I think that's all. I think this is good. I just fingers crossed it works out. So yeah, let's make friends. And let's prepare for the big plans on future days. Because I got plans. Trust me, even if they're not the most profitable, I'll be making big plays. Okay, so where do we begin? So a lot of stuff happened. Well, maybe not a lot. The aeronaut, I disembarked from the Hurricane at Harp Rock. I moved to Qantas, and then I moved to Future Spire, where I managed to talk a bit with the Arcforge. I wasn't originally planning to give them a helping hand for the after the fifth train, but they were offering me a good rate, and I thought that since I am intending to hire like things like the Highwayman Alliance in the future, maybe the aeronaut for transport, maybe the spymaster telegrams, I thought it wouldn't hurt to make another deposit at the rate they were providing. So I guess while I could have accumulated stamina, I instead chose to give them a hand. So that means the Arc Forge would receive point 0.2 Electrum from the deal, and then they would send point 0.8 E to the Azurites. There's a small security concern with this, however. I don't actually have a means of communication with the Azurites. They're supposed to give me a base. And I think the plan was to give me a base in Cobalt, although they can't really give me a base in Cobalt right now, given that it doesn't really have a forum, so there's not really a point in the base in Cobalt. But my agreement with the Azurites was a base and an alliance, so let's hope that that applies tomorrow and maybe make the expectations a bit more clear. Again, it doesn't really matter for today, but I would have liked it for today. Now, the Arc Forge are clearly the dominant winner. I think they're probably going to some kind of depth in order to have this kind of expansionist territory. But so far, I've kind of like talking with the Arc Forge, and well, there is the expectation that they might be able to pay the most in the future, given their vast territory. Now, of course, I am considering myself completely loyal to the Azurites at this moment. However, I have talked with the Arcforge, and they have agreed to ferry me from Future to Ziza. So my hope is that they can get me to Ziza, and that will cut down the train's worth of travel. We agreed that if they can't get me there in time, I don't have to pay. But right now, if they can get me here before the second train tomorrow, which means if they can get me here in 4 hours, um, then I'll give them, well, an amount of Electrum that has yet to be decided. Now, notably, I am a bit concerned about. Well, actually, no. Wait. Sorry, I'm confused on where they agreed to drop me a leaf for Ziza. Whatever saves me a train of time, I'll make that clear if they let me board. But no specific price has been agreed upon yet, but that seems to be our current agreements. There is a concern with me hopping on an airship that I will be stranded as the Wanderer. That happened earlier today. I hope at least the Arcforge don't choose to stab me, because I do feel relatively positive towards them right now. In actuality, I had relic options. Four relic options. The ones I discarded were Swift Boot and the Breasted Crown. The ones I chose was the Back Alley Surgery, which is the staple. I need this to have a scanner to protect myself. I had considered the logistics of giving either Thief's Tools or the Tranquilizer myself, but I think I have to go for Scanner just to make certain plays in the late game viable without being dependent on other faction scanners. So, once again, another brass. Again, I don't think I need a scanner for tomorrow, because Wanderer is not really a big threat on like day one or day two, but it is something I am trying to get. And as for they. Oh, one sec. One sorry. Okay, I'm back. So, oh shit, what's my avatar doing? Healing herbs is a toss between healing herbs and swift boots for my second option. I can definitely see the value in swift boot, definitely. But healing herbs provides the first ability I can start using that can actually give me like benefits. And at first, I thought it would just be useful for curing things like tranquilizers or poison, but I thought about it a bit more. Since it removes the exhausted and poison conditions from any agent, you can think about it like giving an agent a second action. And when you think about it this way, there's a lot you can do with this. For example, we talk the merchant's over here, and the merchant has the ability to acquire trade. I'm so sorry about my avatar. Why is it doing? Uh, okay, let me turn on a bit more light. Okay, so wait, is that okay? I see. Sorry. So the merchant has the ability to acquire trade goods. They can gain 3 trade goods, and that will put them on exhaustion for 1 turn. But if I use my healing herbs, and I can do that twice in 1 day, then I could make them get 6 trade goods. Now, obviously, I'm not actually. That might be worth considering actually having the merchant follow me around. And I think I would be willing to make that deal in order to produce 6 trade goods. Now, obviously, well, I would expect the majority of the payment, first of all, for using the herbs, but I mentioned to the Arcforge that I'm willing to accept either a minimum of 2 Electrum or a maximum of 2.5 Electrum as of currently, with the remaining amount to be distributed to the Arcforge for being able to connect both of us and the merchant. So the merchant and the Arcforge would get spare change. I'd get a decent profit. But the merchant wasn't online, so we'll see if that goes through tomorrow or not. Right now, my decisions are relatively simple. Um, if I don't get to let's see if I'm in Ziza before the second train tomorrow, then that means I end up here on my second train, then third train, or end up here on my fourth train. So I either end up in Eastwall, my third or fourth train tomorrow, and that gives me room to move one more time before taking an action. I could actually make use of the blade tomorrow if I want to, so I'll make sure to communicate with that whoever I come across to. It helps a lot actually being a lot more limited in communication, because I'm someone who will yap like a lot. So I find it actually like helps a lot. Um, Let me see. Do I need to make any other notes? This is my contract. I'll try to. I might have the I might have. I ended up perhaps over or understate. No, ended up making the understating how much I was expecting the Azurites to communicate for me. I think because I started thinking about it and the transition to an actual bank account. I'm assuming I'm having with the Azurites. Maybe that isn't too great, but I'll offer them some spare change if it means that they'll manage it for me. This offer's still on hold for whoever wants it. This is just a note on the aeronaut prices for travel. I quoted that when the Arcforge asked how much, when I asked Arcforge how much they wanted, and they said they, like, I think they're really open to accepting anything. This is just a note to consider offering spare change to the Azurites as a measure of goodwill, since I think they used their dashes to, they used their dashes for me yesterday to accept a deposit from the Arcforge for the hand, but um, I think this is the current plan. Um, right. I don't think I'll forget anything. Possible healing herbs on merchant tomorrow. I could spend a bit of time like going over in my head what to do, but for now, assuming I even wake up on time tomorrow, I think the plan is clear. Though looking at the Arcforge position currently, they're gonna have a hard time holding on to 8 cities with only like I think 30 reserves. They need to spend at least 3, maybe 4 brass just to have enough to occupy all their cities for next turn. So they're in a strong position today, but where that ends up being strong tomorrow is another question. But they're definitely in a good position. So yeah, I might have 0 Electrum here, but I do have a Wanderer with 4 renown. Supposedly, I have 1 Electrum in the bank with the Azurites. So was today good or profitable? I think it was useful a lot in terms of making connections and talking with people. So, yeah, I think that's the current situation. All right, I'll see tomorrow how this plays out. Let's try not to get too obsessed. It's just a game. But dang, I spend a lot of time talking to people. All right,